The school bell rang sharp at 8 a.m. Students rushed through the gates, laughing, talking, shouting. It was a normal Monday morning at Lakewood High School until the classroom door opened and a new face walked in. She was quiet. She was alone. And no one knew her name. The teacher cleared his throat and said, "Class, please welcome our new student, Amina Johnson." Amina gave a small nod. She held her bag close to her chest. Her eyes scanned the room, but no one smiled. No one waved. She slowly walked to the empty seat in the back corner. A boy whispered loudly, "She looks like she's from another planet." His friend laughed. A few others joined in. Amina heard it, but she said nothing. It was her first day, in a new city, a new school, and a new life. Her father had moved them suddenly last month. They used to live near a military base where everyone respected her father. But now, this place was different, cold, rude, unwelcoming. During math class, the teacher asked Amina to solve a problem on the board. She stood up slowly and walked to the front. Whispers followed her. As she picked up the chalk, a girl dropped her pencil and said, "Oops, don't trip." Everyone laughed. Amina didn't respond. She solved the problem quietly and sat back down. The teacher looked surprised. "Correct," he said, but no one clapped. No one said, "Well done." Instead, the class grew colder. At lunch, Amina sat, alone. She pulled out her homemade sandwich and opened a book. She hoped someone might sit with her. But they all walked past. Some even changed tables just to avoid sitting near her. A group of girls at the next table stared. "She talks like a robot. Why is her skin so dark? She thinks she's better than us." Amina heard it all. She tried to stay strong, but her hands shook slightly. She remembered what her father always said. "People judge what they don't understand. Let them talk. You stay strong." She repeated that sentence again and again in her mind. But the more she heard the laughter, the harder it became. After school, Amina walked to the bus stop. Rain began to fall, cold and steady. Her hoodie was thin, her bag was wet. She looked at her phone. No messages, no missed calls, just one photo on the lock screen, her and her father. Smiling, she stared at the picture, then whispered, "Why did we come here?" Suddenly, a car passed fast through a puddle, splashing dirty water on her clothes. The boys inside laughed and drove off. Amina stood there, cold, wet, and still quiet. But her eyes were different now. There was fire behind them. At home, she opened her drawer and pulled out a small box. Inside was something no one at school knew about, a silver badge. Old, slightly scratched, but still shining. It had 3 words engraved on it. Delta Force USA. It belonged to her father. She ran her fingers over it. Then she pulled out a folded paper. It was a letter he wrote to her a year ago. "Amina, you will face people who won't see your heart. They'll only see your silence, your skin, your strength, and fear it. But always remember you carry my blood. And I was trained never to lose." She folded the paper again and placed it back in the box. Her face was calm now, but her heart was ready. Back at school, one teacher asked the principal, "Who is that new girl, really?" The principal shrugged. "Her records just say she transferred from Fort Rockridge School. Nothing more." Another teacher added, "Her eyes, they look like a soldier's. She doesn't flinch." The principal laughed. "She's just a quiet kid. Let's not make a movie out of it." But little did they know. Amina wasn't just a quiet girl. She was the daughter of one of the most feared and respected men in Special Forces history. And very soon, they'd all find out. But not the easy way. The sun was shining outside, but Amina's world still felt dark. It was her second week at Lakewood High School, and things were only getting worse. No one talked to her. No one smiled at her. And today, something cruel was about to happen. Amina walked into her English class. She sat at her usual spot, last row, near the window. As the teacher spoke about poetry, students were asked to come forward and read a short piece. One by one, the class took turns. Some read love poems. Others read about dreams. Then the teacher said, "Amina, would you like to read next?" She stood up slowly. Her voice was soft but clear. She read a poem she had written herself. I walk alone, but not in fear. I hold the strength my heart keeps near. They laugh, they judge, they try to break. But I am more than their mistake. The class was silent. Some looked surprised, but before anyone could speak, a loud sound filled the room. A fake fart noise. Everyone turned to see a boy named Ryan holding a small speaker under his desk. He laughed loudly and shouted, "Wow, even her poem stinks!" The whole class burst into laughter. The teacher tried to stop them, but it was too late. Some students clapped, others whistled. Amina stood frozen, her hands shaking. Tears filled her eyes, but she didn't let them fall. She looked at Ryan for a moment, then walked out of the classroom without saying a word. Outside the classroom, she found an empty hallway. She leaned against the wall, breathing hard. She wasn't sad anymore. She was angry. She pulled out her phone and opened a photo. It was her father in full military gear. She whispered, "You always told me to stay calm, but today I almost broke." Suddenly, she got a message from an unknown number. It said, "Don't let them win. You were born to lead, not to follow." Amina stared at the screen. She smiled for the first time in days. She knew who D was. Meanwhile, back in the classroom, the teacher scolded Ryan. That was disrespectful and cruel. Ryan shrugged. It was just a joke. She should learn to take one. The teacher sighed. "Do you even know who she is? Where she came from?" Ryan laughed. "Some army brat, probably. She acts like she's better than us." But the teacher knew something the others didn't. He had seen Amina's transfer papers. He knew her last name, and he had heard stories about a man named Commander David Johnson, a legendary Delta Force officer. He started to connect the dots. Later that day, Amina sat alone in the library. She opened her notebook and began writing. Again. But this time, it wasn't a poem. It was a letter to herself. They tried to humiliate me. But I'm not here to cry. I'm here to rise. The same blood that trained soldiers runs through me, and they will learn. Soon. After school, Ryan and his friends waited outside to tease her again. They had printed her poem and wrote rude jokes all over it, but Amina didn't come out. Instead, she was in the gym, alone, practicing. Her father had trained her in self-defense, focus, and discipline. She didn't believe in violence, but she believed in strength, and she was building hers. Back at home, Amina's father noticed her silence. He asked, "Bad day?" She nodded. He didn't ask more. He just handed her something. It was a small black box. Inside was a silver pin with a simple word, resilience. He said, "This was given to me after my toughest mission. I want you to have it now." Amina held it tightly, and for the first time, her heart felt warm. The next morning, she walked into school wearing the pin on her jacket. Heads turned. Some students rolled their eyes, but a few looked curious. Ryan smirked and said loudly, "Look, the poet warrior is back." But Amina just looked at him and smiled, not with fear, not with pain, but with power, because something big was coming, and none of them were ready. It was a quiet morning at Lakewood High, but something felt different. Amina walked into the school with her head held high. She wore her black jacket, and on it, the small silver pin that said, "Resilience." Some students stared. Some whispered, but Amina didn't care. She was tired of hiding. Inside the teacher's office, Mr. Harris was sitting with a serious look on his face. He was the history teacher, and he had seen the cruel joke in the English class the day before. He had also noticed something strange about Amina's school file. He opened it again. There was barely any information, just her name, age, and former school. But the letter attached caught his eye. It was signed, "Transferred with special clearance, U.S. Defense Liaison." Mr. Harris's heart skipped a beat. Why would a high school transfer involve the U.S. Defense Department? He whispered. Then he typed something into his computer. He searched for Commander David Johnson, Delta Force. Dozens of articles appeared. One headline read, "Delta Force Hero, Rescued Hostages in Secret Mission." Another said, "Commander Johnson, the man who walked through fire." Mr. Harris leaned back in his chair. Amina wasn't just a quiet girl. She was the daughter of a legend. At lunchtime, something strange happened. Amina was walking past the cafeteria when a younger student dropped his lunch tray. Food spilled everywhere. The boy froze, afraid. Ryan and his friends stood nearby, ready to laugh. But Amina stepped forward. She knelt down, helped the boy pick up the tray, and gave him her own apple. No words, just a small smile. The boy looked at her like she was a hero. Ryan watched, confused. This wasn't weakness. This was strength. Later that day, Mr. Harris called Amina to his office. She walked in, unsure why she was called. Mr. Harris said, "Close the door, please." Amina did. He looked at her gently and said, "I know who your father is." Her eyes widened. She didn't speak. He continued, "You don't have to tell me anything. But I want you to know. I respect him deeply. And after what happened yesterday, I want to say this. I respect you too." Amina stayed silent, but her hands relaxed. For the first time in weeks, someone believed in her. Mr. Harris leaned forward and added, "I saw what Ryan did. I've spoken to the principal. He's been warned." Amina finally spoke. "He won't stop. None of them will." Mr. Harris nodded. "Then let them come. Some lessons take time, and some storms bring the strongest light." Monday morning started like any other. Students rushed through the halls, lockers slammed, laughter echoed. But there was a strange energy in the air. Something was about to happen, and Amina could feel it. During homeroom, the intercom crackled to life. Principal Green's voice echoed through every classroom. "Good morning, students. We have a special announcement today. This year's annual talent show will be held next Friday. Anyone interested must sign up by Wednesday. Let's make it unforgettable." The room buzzed with excitement. Students turned to each other already, talking about singing, dancing, and funny skits. But when Amina heard the announcement, her heart skipped a beat. She remembered her violin case, the one still hidden under her bed. She hadn't played in months, not since they moved. Not since the last time her mom had smiled. After class, she sat alone at lunch, lost in thought. Then someone sat across from her. It was Tasha, a girl from her science class. "You play violin, don't you?" Tasha asked gently. Amina looked up, surprised. "How do you know?" Tasha smiled. "I heard Mr. Harris say you were gifted. I also saw you humming a tune once. Your fingers were moving like you were holding a bow." Amina smiled for the first time that day. "Yeah, I used to play." Tasha leaned in. "You should join the talent show." Amina shook her head quickly. "No, they'll laugh, just like they did in English class." Tasha nodded. "Maybe. But what if they don't? What if they listen this time?" Amina didn't answer. That evening, Amina sat on her bed staring at the old violin case. She slowly opened it. Dust floated into the air. But inside, the violin still shined, her mother's favorite. She ran her fingers over the strings. They were out of tune. But the memories weren't. Her mother had always said, "Music speaks even when the world stays silent." Amina took a deep breath and tightened the bow. Then she began to play, softly, a broken melody, full of pain and beauty, and in the hallway, her father stopped walking. He closed his eyes and smiled. She was back. The next day, Amina walked into the front office. She picked up the sign-up form. Her hand shook slightly as she wrote her name. Amina Johnson, violin solo. She turned around and bumped into someone. It was Ryan. He looked at the form and burst out laughing. "You? In the talent show? What are you gonna do? Read more sad poems?" Amina said nothing. She just looked him in the eyes and walked away. That silence hurt more than any comeback. Ryan stood there, annoyed and confused. News spread fast. The quiet. Girl signed up. She's doing violin? Wait, isn't that her first time on stage? By the afternoon, the whole school was talking. Some laughed, others were curious, but no one expected what was coming. Later that day, Ryan and his friends made a fake poster. It said, "Talent show surprise. Bring tissues for the crybaby violinist." They put it on lockers and bathroom doors. Amina saw one. She took it down, slowly, and smiled. They thought they were mocking her, but they were just making her stronger. That night, Amina practiced for hours. She played pieces her mother taught her. She added her own touch, quiet at first, then bold. Her father watched from the doorway. He didn't say much, just whispered she would be proud. On Wednesday, Amina submitted her song choice. It was an original piece, title, "The Voice." They never heard. On Thursday, the teacher announced the final list of performers. Amina's name was last on the list. Some students joked, "They saved the worst for last." But others felt something else, a strange, nervous curiosity. What if this girl really had something to say? As Friday approached, the school buzzed with excitement. Everyone waited for the show, but no one could predict what Amina had prepared. No lights, no backup dancers, no fancy outfit, just a girl with a violin and a fire in her heart the world was about to feel. The gymnasium was packed. Rows of chairs were filled with students, teachers, and even some parents. Colorful lights flashed from the stage. A big banner read, "Lakewood Annual Talent Show." The crowd was loud, laughing, cheering, shouting names. Backstage, performers lined up nervously. Some practiced dance moves. Others whispered their lines. Amina stood silently, holding her violin case close. She was the last name on the list. She would perform at the very end. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath. "One song," she whispered. "One chance to show them who I am." The show began with a funny comedy act. The crowd roared with laughter. Then a group of dancers performed a trendy routine, loud music, bright costumes, wild energy. People clapped, whistled, even stood up to cheer. Next came a magician, a singer, and a boy who juggled fire sticks. One act after another. The crowd loved it. But backstage, Amina stood still. Her heart was pounding. Her palms were sweating. Then she heard someone laugh behind her. "Hope she brought tissues for her violin solo," said Ryan, smirking with his friends. Amina didn't answer. She just looked down and tightened her grip on her case. After a short break, the announcer stepped onto the stage. "All right, ladies and gentlemen, we've reached the final performance of the night. Please welcome Amina Johnson." The crowd went quiet. Some whispered, "Who's that?" Others rolled their eyes. The sad girl with the violin. Amina walked slowly onto the stage. She wore a simple black dress and sneakers. No makeup, no glitter, just her and the violin. She stood in the center. One spotlight shined on her. She looked out into the crowd, and for a second, everything went silent. She thought of her mother. She thought of all the students who laughed. She thought of every moment she felt invisible, and then she raised the violin. The first note was soft, barely there. It floated through the air like a whisper. The crowd leaned forward. Then came the next note, then another. Soon the gym was filled with a melody that felt like a story. Amina's bow moved. Like magic, smooth, steady, full of emotion. The song rose and fell like waves. Some notes were warm like sunlight. Others were sharp like pain. She played from her heart, from her wounds, from her dreams. There were no words, but everyone could feel what she was saying. Tasha watched with tears in her eyes. Mr. Harris sat up straighter in his seat. Even the principal looked surprised. And Ryan, he was frozen. He had never heard anything like it. No one had. Halfway through the song, something strange happened. The room became completely silent. No phones, no whispers, no noise, just the sound of the violin. It felt like time had stopped. Some students began to cry. Even teachers wiped their eyes. The music spoke of pain, but also of strength, of losing someone, and finding yourself again. As the final note rang out, Amina lowered the bow. She stood still. For 2 full seconds, no one moved. Then, boom! The entire gym erupted in applause. People stood up, clapped, cheered. Some shouted, "Bravo!" Others screamed, "That was amazing!" Amina stood there, shocked. She hadn't expected this. She had just wanted to survive the moment, but now she had owned it. Backstage, a teacher rushed up to her. "Amina, that was one of the most powerful things I've ever seen. You moved the whole school." Tasha ran to her and hugged her tight. "You did it. You really did it." Ryan stayed in the crowd, silent. He had no joke, no insult. For the first time, he was speechless. Later, as Amina walked to her father's car, she saw a small group waiting. Mr. Harris, Tasha, the music teacher, and even a few students she didn't know. They all clapped again as she passed. Her father stood beside the car, arms crossed, smiling proudly. "You didn't just play a song," he said. "You made them feel your soul." Amina smiled. "I think they finally heard me." That night, a short video of her performance was posted on the school's social media page. Within hours, it was shared hundreds of times. The girl with the violin made the whole school cry. Talent show ends with unforgettable performance. Who is Amina Johnson? People were finally asking the right question. Amina's life changed overnight. The video of her performance kept spreading. By morning, it had 10,000 views. By the next day, it crossed 50,000. People she had never met were commenting, "This girl made me cry. The most emotional violin performance I've ever seen. Who hurt her? This music has pain and beauty." But Amina didn't care about the numbers. What mattered most was the message she had shared, and the silence that followed her performance. For the first time, the world had listened. At school, everything felt different. People didn't laugh when she walked by. Some smiled. Some nodded. Even teachers treated her with more respect. Ryan stayed quiet. He no longer made jokes. He looked at her sometimes, as if he wanted to say something, but couldn't. Amina didn't need an apology. The music had spoken. For her, in music class, Mr. Harris pulled her aside. "You've done something special, Amina. Not just at school, but for people watching everywhere." She smiled shyly. "I just played what I felt." He nodded. "That's what makes it powerful. Real emotion doesn't need big words." Then he handed her a letter. It came this morning, from the National Young Artists Association. Amina looked at him in shock. "What?" He grinned. "Read it." The letter said, "Dear Amina Johnson, we recently saw your performance at the Lakewood Talent Show. Your music touched us deeply. We would like to invite you to audition for our National Youth Showcase in New York. Travel and lodging will be fully sponsored. Please reply within 1 week. Amina's hands were shaking. New York? A national stage? It felt like a dream. When she got home, she gave the letter to her father. He read it silently, then sat down, holding back tears. She would be proud, he whispered. Amina nodded. I want to go. For her. He looked at her. Then we go. Together. The next morning, something unexpected happened. Amina was called to the principal's office. Her Hia